Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. The role of motor skill learning in improving tennis performance. Can I just say that it's not really that. It's really, I wanted to share with you what I thought we could do when I started in the fitness industry. And I was slightly triggered by a recent blog that oversimplified movement and gave a list of exercises that claim to prevent injuries. And so what I wanted to do is just to share with you today the role of motor skill learning in improving tennis performance. For those of you that are on the motor skill application course, in about 20 minutes, we're going to go just a little bit deeper, but this is just to start off with. Okay, and I'm going to sort of kind of fly through this. This is my client, and her name is Angela, and she had a fall. And she'd also been diagnosed with a frozen shoulder, which is not a great diagnosis, but that's not what we're kind of here for. But she was really nervous about getting back on to the tennis court. So we looked at some of the things that she wanted to work on, obviously doing a few star cramps, not sure where that's come in from. But what we did is create a little game where she could get more familiar with moving around on grass. So we got her to go into the hub and then run to different corners. And I got her just to pretend that she was playing tennis. Where we're screaming and shouting, that's because if I shouted a certain number, she had to go, you cannot be serious. The big thing she wanted to work on was to actually go backwards. And you can see that was something that was a little bit more challenging for her. But by using game, it gave her an experience that was easy to do, but also fun. Because what we're going to have a look at is what actually are the risks of injury within tennis if the body actually knows it's doing tennis, because it would need to know it. Um, there is this theory that if you've got perfect technique, perfect form, then you won't get any injuries. But here's Nadal, and he is probably technically one of the best tennis players there is. I love his little rituals, but he also suffers from injuries. So, yeah, and that's just N equals one. But you will see that when we look at the research studies, it doesn't seem to be about technique that seems to lead us to a specific injury. What I was taught was we had to assess our client, we had to make sure they looked symmetrical. If a knee deviated in, we would go, ah, ha, ha, that's the tight adductor and the weak glute. I need to sort that out with my magic foam roller because that's the answer to everything, and strengthen the sleepy glute. Um, but my mind kind of goes, well, hang on, is it that? Could it be that? Or maybe it's a metatarsal that's not everting, or maybe the midfoot's locked and therefore the ankle is everting at pace. Or it could be the shape of the calcaneus, which I can't change the shape of somebody's calcaneus. It could be just it could be tib fib internally rotating. Um, it could be that they've gone over on an ankle, and so therefore they're trying to just make sure that they can protect that inversion sprain. It could be a hip not internally rotating in a sequence, or it could be the other side of the hip not giving that range. So, point being, it's a hell of a lot of different things, and it's a bit oversimplified to just blame two little muscles, and you can't really just separate the brain, the body from the environment and the task. The next thing I was told to do is to measure people lying down, and that never felt right. This is the geometer, which we used to do on the NASM course, and I used to try and I know. I couldn't really see the numbers to be fair. But anyway, that's been taken out now, rightly so, because as soon as we start lying someone on a table and measuring the angles of their joint, we are definitely taking away motor skill from the equation and trying to separate biomechanics from body, brain, and task and environment. I was also told that I had to make sure everybody was balanced, symmetry, and to be fair, I am a little bit kind of weird and I do like things to balance. So I do like a bit of symmetry, so that kind of sat well with me. But if I saw a spine like this with someone who wanted to play tennis or lift or run, I'd be going, oh no, because I've just got to correct and fix that spine. That spine being someone that's is a good tennis player, but he's not known for his tennis. He just happens to be the fastest man on the planet. That is Usain Bolt. Yes, expectations, eh? Um, I then got involved in, oh, I know what I can do. I can start to get my hands on and fix people. And I did feel great. I felt like a little bit of a guru. I used to get my spoon out and scrape people's fascia because, well, I was told that that was fabulous until one day I was told that wasn't fabulous. And in fact, it was through Faster Health and Fitness that I learnt to use my spoon and spoon everyone around Wimbledon. And um, John messaged me and he said, sorry, I was kind of falling for being a bit of a guru and hadn't really looked at the research. Um, and I thought, oh, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But for those of you that have done a course with Faster, you'll know that you get to come back as many times as you like. And we are encouraged not to trust the guru, but to have the tools to be able to question and evaluate the research ourselves. But it, sometimes you just want a quick fix. And I found it a little bit annoying that I'd learnt all these techniques and I didn't know whether I should just trust John. And to be honest with you, I didn't really want to learn how to read the research myself. I came from an acting background, and so I'm not excusing myself, but I was a little bit lazy in that I wanted to just buy the next course to tell me what to do. And I was a bit frustrated with John, so I kind of put my head in the sand for about 4 years. And I followed lots more gurus, but this time some pain science gurus and started to look at their research. That made me feel a bit more confident, but I was literally just following another guru. So I went to make sure that I could get strong, get my clients strong. I was still foam rolling on the quiet. And my clients were doing all of that, and yet they were still getting injuries and still experiencing pain. Thank goodness for the motor skill application specialist and the faster process that when I did start to get over my own ego and start to go for the red button research, I was able to not only challenge what I'd been told by pretty much every other educator, I was able to challenge what Forrester were telling me. And with John's support, I did learn to read research. And one thing I will say, if anybody does struggle with it, if an actress that spends most of her time just like dressing up in different costumes can do it, anybody can, and you'll probably be able to do it much better than I can. Um, And this is important because if we don't have this, it's really, really hard to let go of what we've once been told. Because I can tell you that it is a lot easier to have this idea of one thing being able to fix and solve and prevent an injury. Oh my gosh, I wish it was true. I wish that FMS that I was doing, marking down the scoreboard, did what I was told it would do. I was told it would help me see movement, spot muscular imbalances, tightnesses, weaknesses, dysfunctions, and by scoring my clients, I would be able to predict an injury. Now, in fairness, Gray Cook actually said that's not the case. It can't spot and prevent an injury. But that's not what I was told when I was buying into it. But that was later said on a research study. One study I looked at, which was done on college female baseball players, 50 of them, 25 of them had ACL injuries. And they all passed the FMS, which is a bit mental because the whole point of the FMS is to spot if someone's likely to have an injury. And there is robust research to say out there, number one risk of injury is a previous injury. So for today, we're going to just bypass research. But for those of you that do want to have learn more about research, and come and join me on Motor Skill Application Specialist, where we'll get the research underpants out and we'll go through a very quick process that we can go, is this a good study? Is it worth my time reading it? Because I'm assuming that most people have a life, want to watch a little bit of Netflix, our family. But we do need to make sure that when we're looking at research, we're not cherry picking studies, that we are actually looking at a cross section of studies that are relevant to our client. But if we do that, it's much easier to grieve the rubbish that we've been possibly told. Quick question about a quick reminder, pain. As we go into injuries, I just want to separate. An injury isn't pain. An injury can cause pain, and you can have pain when there's an injury. You can also have damage when there is no injury whatsoever. So pain can be perceived as a warning of potential damage, but can also be present when there is no actual harm being done to the body. But the great thing is, it's a feeling, and we can be part of changing that. So we've seen that was Usain Bolt. We don't need any more tight muscles, any weaknesses, and we certainly don't need to be worrying about, will these predict injuries? Because I think you know the answer to that. Injury prevention. Okay, so in order to predict an injury, you've got to get pretty up close to it. So the moment before your head's about to slide across the tennis court, yeah, you're about to get injured. When you see that ball just before it smacks you on the nose or on the eye, yeah, that's likely to give you an injury. So basically, just a little reminder, we get an injury because we've been unlucky. We get an injury because our eyes are bigger than our muscles. What do I mean about that? It's a bit like eyes being bigger than the belly, and you think, oh, I'm going to just do too much, too soon, too fast, or in an environment that we're not used to. So it could be that you go to play tennis for the first time in ages because Wimbledon's on, and you're ragging around the court like you did when you were 17. And that may just be that you don't have the skills to do that at quite that intensity or pace. Now, the other one is a previous injury. So if you had a previous injury, it's about 50% more likely that you'll get that injury again. So that's great because we can go to the research and be specific about any exercises or any things that you need to do to get over and rehab that injury properly. And we can find out what the recovery time is. A little reminder, when we move, we cannot separate body, brain from the task and the environment. And that's super important because once we start to realize that, it's like, well, why are we putting people on benches or tables to measure their range of motion when it comes to tennis? Because I've never seen anybody lying on the floor in tennis, playing tennis, maybe after tennis, but not actually in tennis. If we think of tennis as a sport that requires skills, you need to be able to locomote in multiple different directions. You need to be able to be rapid. You need to be able to top. That's a combination, by the way, of stop, turn and accelerate. And you need to be able to do that in loads of different ways. So we start off and we would learn those motor skills to be able to walk forward, run sideways. We then want to start thinking about, oh, we've got to actually learn how to hit a ball over. And there's some great studies from Dr. Tim Masters, who talks about creating an environment where you can learn with gameplay. So you're learning unconsciously, allowing the body to self-organize. So, for example, that would be being next to the net and you can just knock that ball over and you learn to self-organize, build those skills, and gradually you can start to move back or you can move to the side. But the studies were really good because it kind of showed that there was one group that did this unconscious learning the way we would at Faster, where we give someone a game, a task to help them self-organize their skills without over coaching with all the knees in line with toes, shoulders pulled down, that type of thing. And then there was another group that were put further back in the court and they were again having to hit the ball over. But what they did is they did self-organize in that they adapted if the ball didn't go over. But after that, they lost their skills when they were overcoached and too far away. Whereas those that learnt closer in towards the net were more successful. On this skill to performance, most injuries are more likely to happen towards the performance zone in the end. And the reason for that is because you're taking a skill that somebody has developed and then you're putting pressure on it. Our best performance is the performance with a maximum amount of load that we can handle, the maximum amount of speed that we can handle, the maximum amount of intensity that we can handle. And if you add peril, I want to win to that, it's no wonder that in any sport that we look at, you're more likely to have an injury in gameplay. So common injuries in tennis. Well, I'm going to debate there isn't a injury, a tennis injury. A little faster. The reason why I debate that is because nice. Our body doesn't know it's actually playing tennis. So this is Andrew, and he had a tennis elbow. Again, the elbow didn't know it was a tennis elbow, but people had named it tennis elbow. I think it's from the amount of golf he did. But anyway, that's another story. The point being, I had to go to the research, find the recovery time, and then start to give him some movements that distracted him, built his confidence. With that, with a tennis elbow, loading is a good thing to do. So loading that tendon and then to bring in some action there. So before he went straight back to his tennis racket, I just got him throwing that ball against the wall to get that rapid change of direction that you need. So getting the rib cage away from the pelvis. But other injuries, many of the injuries come from tripping, falling over, lunging for a ball and slipping, that type of thing. But what I would say is it's not really a tennis injury, it's just an injury. Now, so I'm just, I think because, sorry, Jeff, letting you in to stop that's better. Cool. So the first thing we kind of want to know is from our tennis player, any areas that they're struggling with, the things that they're going to need to do. So this is Toby. He's pretty proud of that serve there. I was asking him to rate it out of 10. It's really important that you have those HMAC eyes, that ability to see movement at such detail that you can see whether something's out of sequence, because we want to get them more skillful. And that's really going to be the best thing we can do to reduce that risk of injury, is to get them to be able to put those skills under pressure and gradually add that pressure to them. With Toby, he had a groin injury, so I wanted to know when he felt that, look at the research on how long it was to recover. And then he said he wanted to work on the power of his serve and also his backhand. And again, I'm not a tennis coach, so I'm sure many of you know a lot more about tennis than I do. But my role is to say, okay, Toby, what do you need from me? So he said he needed more power and he was fatiguing. So when he's in matches, you have a series of matches. So he'll be doing a 2 or 3 games, and he may even be playing 5 days in a row. So managing that level of intensity. Good. Get straight back. Faster, that. Faster, faster, faster. Good, good. Straight in. Come on in. Good. Straight back. Lovely. Then we go into the side, mid-side. Go, 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 go. Yeah, nice. Come on, you can beat this. You can beat this. You've got this. Come on. Okay, mid forward that. Lovely. And again. Nice. Straight forward to me. We're up again. That's it. Back. Go, go, go. You managed to beat it. You get to punish me. Good. Come on. Come on. Lovely. To the side. Quickly to the other side. Come on. You can do this. Come on. Forward to me. Good. Forward to me. You did extras. Awesome. Good. Come on. Back. Get back. Get back. Come on. If you've got to beat it, you've got to get back to me first. Quick, quick. Back to me. Lovely. Well done. So with that, I used the same drill early on in the session as an assessment. We wrote down the scores. I wanted it to still be reactive as much as possible because that's going to be more appropriate for the court. Obviously, I'm not actually knocking a tennis ball over because I'm just not good enough. If you do have someone that could do that, awesome. But we timed it and then we saw how many points in the areas he could get to at pace. And then at the end, we played that again to see if he could get there quicker and beat his best performance. So focusing really on his self-efficacy as well as pushing those energy systems. And for me, he needed to have that tennis racket in his hand because otherwise he wouldn't be having that same grip being used the whole way through. This is a section to the side for me from a little circuit. So I wanted to challenge pace now and get out. That's it. Getting back to that backhand. The Viper there slows down that movement as you come down. So if you wanted to get out even quicker, you could use something like a CMT to load it and get out. But I really wanted him to have to overcome the momentum of that Viper. Sprint. So he had a little zone in the middle that was like a shuffle zone. And then at random, I would call out for me. We're going different sections. Yeah. So see if you can think about which one that's for. Relax, catch your breath. Just catch your breath for the moment. Being nice there. He had been absolutely smashed. Sprint. These are quite slow, Toby. Get back quickly as you can. Sprint. As soon as I say the word sprint, you need to move. I think I could have actually said the word sprint quicker, actually. I think that was more my fault than his. Give me some pace on there. So working on that rapid change of direction, trying to get that rib cage away from that pelvis. And of course, burpees. Well, this was more because he's a 17-year-old lad. We then added a load of press ups as well.
You tired yet?
So,
And relax.
the other thing that was interfering with Toby's play was he didn't like it if the courts weren't of high quality. He'd been used to some good clubs like Wimbledon, and he went to this club and it was awful. And he lost his matches. He goes, "Oh, but it was just, there were." I said, "You can't blame the court." So I realized that we need to change the experience that he was having. And so the next time we trained in my local park where there was litter around the place, potholes in the grass, not on a nice swanky court, but just so that he could get over that oh, I can't play on this kind of surface. And that was actually really, really good for him. So just to review, the most important thing is what is the client's goal, not what injury are we going to get? Because an injury is it's kind of like looking into a crystal ball. But what we do need to know is from their goal, what are the likely injuries that they might have, and how can we manage that risk? And how can we do that in a way that's entertaining? So if we know that a lot of this is about skill, a lot of it is reducing the possibility of falling, and it's also about monitoring, not necessarily doing too much too soon. So monitoring that volume. And it turned out the groin strain was really from that overload and doing too much. But these are all the things that we have to start thinking about before we create that experience. Now, I would love to hand it over to you guys and see whether you've got any questions. And I've also got a blog that's going to come out with all the research that has gone in behind this. So if you do want that, just let me know. You guys have all got my number, you can message me, but if you're watching this on the replay, then just drop me an email and I can send you those research links and your discount code for MSAS. So let me just pause this and come off screen share. Because what I'd like to do now for those that are still with us is just think about some exercises we can put in. But my hope is that we start to think that it's about using motor skill to get somebody more skillful at moving and thinking about if they've had any previous injuries. There is no such thing as a technical tennis injury because the body doesn't know it's doing tennis. So like when you say, oh, it's a football injury, really? So fire away with some questions for me. I have taken away the screen share, haven't I? Yeah, good. Um, Jeff, it was so good dancing with you earlier. That was so much fun.
My customers have been watching me from the window.